10 best pop songs of 2022. Yes, we are doing this one this year. It's not a list that I tend to focus on by year-end lists most of the years. In fact, this is the first time I've ever done one of these on this channel. The only other time that I came close to doing it was when I did that one, whatever year it was it 2017, where I did the video, but I linked you to an article that I'd written for a different website. I didn't actually do a full video talking about my favorite pop songs of the year. I kind of cheated you into thinking I was doing that, and then it was actually just a link to another article or some bollocks that I'd done. So there you go. This time we're not doing that again. We are going to talk you through the best popular hit songs of 2022. I know lots of other channels that do this and they do it very well. So hopefully you're not going to watch this video and think, God damn, this guy is rubbish. The reason why I wanted to do this year was because I was keeping tabs on the charts and noticed that there was a lot of good songs, and I was jamming to a lot of good popular pop songs this year. There's been loads of good songs hitting the charts, and there's probably even more than 10 that I might have been able to mention, but unfortunately I'm just keeping it to 10. And yeah, I've just been pretty impressed with what's making it popular at the moment. There's been a lot of crap. There really has, and I probably could do a top 10 worst if I was feeling naughty this Christmas, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep to the positives, but let's be honest, there's been a lot of bad songs. Like, I'll tell you a few that I think are bad, just to give you a bit of a taste of what I think. I think Unholy is pretty terrible, I'm not going to lie to you. I think that's a really bad song, I'm not going to lie to you, man. That has no staying power. Once that goes, that's gone. That's a gone song, I'm telling you right now. The song, I always forget the name of it. It samples LaRue's In For The Kill, and it's like a UK hip-hop track. Mate, terrible. What is that? What are we doing? What are we doing? Seriously, one of the worst songs I've heard in a few years, and there's plenty more that I could mention too, but yeah, there's just a couple for you just to get a taste of what I think's been bad. But yeah, we're going to go through the top 10. I'm going to talk you through it. I'm going to talk you through what my favorites are, starting from 10 to 1, and they have to have been popular in the year of 2022. They had to have been in the charts in 2022. And the final main criteria is that what will be different about this one is that I'm British, so I'm going to be looking at what was popular in the UK. Okay, we have our own UK chart system, just like every other country. I'm focusing on that one. I don't think there's going to be that much difference. I think there's only one song that will be here that wouldn't be, on an American one or a Canadian one or any other one, because we had one big song in the UK that didn't really get that big anywhere else, I think, anyway. So regardless, it's going to be the top 10 biggest, the best songs of 2022 in the UK. Let's start, let's go, let's get into number 10, let's go. I have my own plans to do a separate video on this, right? I'm going to talk, I can't even keep balance. I'm going to talk you through how sampling in pop music, in all pop music at the moment, in the TikTok era, is getting lazy. I have a whole video plan for this, and I'm not going to spoil all the things I'm going to say, because I might do it at some point, maybe when January hits, maybe once we've got past Christmas, all that kind of stuff, the new year, maybe do it then. I have a whole thing planned. But sometimes sampling can be fantastic in pop music, and often it is, and often samples can be used in the greatest ways. But at the moment, and I think it's TikTok, and I like TikTok, but I'm blaming TikTok because it's too easy to get trendy on there and to just be lazy and just to put the bare minimum effort that makes something go viral. You know how it works. And that is one thing that's going wrong right now with popular music. It's sampling, it's getting lazy. And yet at number 10, I would concede and say this is a bit of a lazy sample, but I think it's also a bit of a jam.
I can ride it while you slipping and sliding. I can do all them little tricks.
Rick James's Super Freak is just an all-timer for me. I think it's an absolute banging tune. It's aged so well, the lyrics are really funny, and it makes so much sense that Nicki Minaj would put the spin on this and, be the super freak that he was singing about all along in that track. And it's one of those things that you hear and you go, why hasn't this been done before? And of course, it just is like everything you'd expect Nicki Minaj to do across her entire career, and it's a lot of fun. It's a really, really basic usage of the sample, and I can't deny how fun it is and how much of a jam it is, because it is just so silly and goofy and funny, and obviously the explicit lyrics go very far, but it's totally in Nicki Minaj's wheelhouse to be doing this. And out of all the singles and albums she's put out over the past few years, because to be honest, Queen was pretty poor, and some of the singles afterwards and some of the singles before it as well haven't been the best. I think Nicki Minaj has had a lot of potential to be better than she's ended up being, to be honest. I think she could have been one of the best female rappers of all time if it weren't for the fact that she's just totally kind of lost her way with her albums. They've just not been very good. But every now and then she does put out a really good track, and I think this is one of them. I think this is a really fun track. And I'm even going to go as far as being extra controversial by saying this to me is what I think WAP was supposed to be. And look, WAP was huge. It was massive for Cardi B, and it was massive for Megan Thee Stallion. And I know people will probably go, you're just a man who hates women and you don't like them talking about those things. Ooh. But my thing with that song was that it just wasn't very fun. It sounded too serious. It sounded like they were singing about really dirty and explicit things over a really serious sort of like beat that had a really serious tone to their delivery. They just weren't self-aware and they weren't being fun with it, in my opinion. That was why I never liked that song. But yes, of course, I'll be called a misogynist for not liking it, even though it's got nothing to do with that. Whereas Super Freaky Girl is fun. She is having fun. She's sliding and slipping over this beat. She sounds like she's having a great time. The beat is fun. It's not taking itself too seriously. This is the better version of that song, in my opinion. Okay, number 9. You couldn't get any more opposite to what I've just given the number 10 spot to, because we have a Disney song next.
He told me my fish would die the next day.
Yeah, I was really impressed with this song from the film when it came out, and I watched it around the time it did come out too with my nephew. I wasn't the biggest fan of this film actually, but when I heard this song, I was like, okay, the Latin influence, the really clever repetition of the hook that they keep going back to, I think is used really well. And I was like, damn, this is a jam. Like, this is a really good song. And then it ended up being one of the biggest songs of 2022, which was pretty cool to see. And yeah, I'm totally on board with this, man. As anyone who watches me often knows, I love anything sort of Latin inspired, and I think them using that in this song and across some of the other songs in the album too, the music album of the film, the soundtrack, I think was really done well, and I think this is no exception. I think it's great. I think the final minute when the vocals start layering over each other and the instrumental gets a bit more intense, that part of the song sounds fantastic. I mean, it's good for the first 2 minutes, but that final minute, man, so good.
'Cause sometimes I look in her eyes and that's where
At number 8, I did a whole separate video about this track, but we've got Glimpse of Us by Joji. Yeah, I really like this track, I do. I still think some of the lyrical parts of it are quite questionable, but I still maintain that maybe Joji is trying to play off some character here, and I still think the fact that he was Filthy Frank before kind of backs up that idea that he's now trying to play this sort of like lost soul guy who is making songs in a way that I kind of have to question the morals behind the lyrics, but I still think it sounds good overall. Like, I really do. I think musically it sounds beautiful. I think the pain and the emotion behind the track is sold remarkably well. And yeah, I'm not entirely sure I'm on board with the premise, but the way that it takes you into a world that makes you think about things makes it really interesting as well. It's the best James Blake song you could imagine Joji would ever make, and it was a huge track this year. To my surprise, I can't believe it was as big as it was. I think this is quite depressing and, you know, not particularly exciting to listen to. And some songs like this do get big, you know. You've got your Lewis Capaldi, who makes huge hits by making pretty depressing tracks, but there's a separation between what he's doing and what Joji's doing on this track, and I just wouldn't expect this to be as big as it was. But yeah, I'm really impressed with this. I didn't think Joji had it in him, but he certainly delivered here.
When I look in your eyes, yes, yes.
Yes, at number 7, Screw the Haters. I know a lot of people hate this track, but I think it's really fun. I really do. I like this track. To me, this is this year's version of This Girl by Kungs from a few years back. When was that? 2018 was that? I think maybe 2017. I don't know. It's quite a few years old, that track now. But it's basically taking a soul track and putting your own spin on it and turning it into a dance floor banger. And that both those songs did it really well. And it could go either way. We've seen it done before. I think there was that track, that awful track by Philip George, where he sampled a Stevie Wonder song, and it was a huge hit. One of the worst tracks I'd heard of that year, though. Awful song, but it can go really wrong. And I know a lot of people don't like this Afraid to Feel either, but I think it's really fun. I think it's good. I think the way it kind of goes from the phases of the fast pace to the slow pace, and it sort of interchanges between both of those. I just think it's really fun. I think it's creative as well. You don't often hear tracks like this. Usually it's just, you know, the lyrics and then a build up to the EDM drop, and then it's a doom, 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 and then it goes back to the lyrics. Like most songs do that. This song took that formula and put its own spin on it and just made it really fun. I just like this. This is a good dance floor banger. Seriously, if you are out and about and you're having a good time, you're going to want to boogie to this. Harry Styles had a massive year in 2022 and is basically one of the biggest artists in the world now. He was before this album, but I think once you get to your third album and you're putting out massive songs and massive hits that do really well and then get a Grammy nomination from it, I think you've pretty much cemented yourself, you know? He could have definitely fizzled out after one album or two albums and people might have got bored, just like they did with all of the other One Direction members. You know, let's not forget how hard it is to maintain that longevity and that consistency. And Harry Styles has managed to do it. He could have been a Zayn, he could have been a friggin' Niall Horan who just fizzled out, he could have been a Louis Tomlinson, but it's actually pretty impressive that he's still maintained the huge hits that he has. And you might be thinking, oh, he's gonna say As It Was. He's gonna put As It Was on the list. I'm not. I am not.
We've been doing all this late.
I've gone with Late Night Talking. This, my friends, is a jam. This is a jam. And unfortunately for me, I said this in the review, but the album really set itself up to fail for me because it started with the two best tracks on the whole thing. Music for a Sushi Restaurant and then this. And I was like, the whole album, he's just going to make some boppity bop dance tunes. And he didn't commit to it. I was very disappointed. And while As It Was massive, and I think that's a decent track as well, I kind of got a little bit bored of it, but I never got bored of Late Night Talking. This track just gets more fun every time I hear it. I think the way he's singing and the instrumental kind of builds along with him, with the Late Night Talking, and the instrumental's like doo-doo. It's very, very, you know, indicative of the 80s and maybe even some like, you know, 70s in there as well. I feel like sometimes with his vocals he's pulling out a bit of like your Billy Joels or your Paul Simons and that sort of era of music. I feel like he's got a bit of that in him, a bit of the David Bowie Let's Dance era as well coming through in this track. He's definitely got his influences, but I just think it's a really fun tune that is structured really well and is super replayable. And while it wasn't as big as It Was, I think it's a better track than that. And I think it should have easily been as big as that song, for sure. So yeah, this is my pick for number 6.
Bitch, I might be better. Turn up the music. Turn down.
I think Lizzo's starting to really find her lane with her singles. I think she is a really strong singles artist, to be honest. I think this, along with Juice, Boys, and maybe some of the other tracks from previous albums too. And there's this album as well, has some great tracks on it as well, like Everybody's Gay, which I still think she should release as a single and push it pretty far because I think it would do very, very well. Also has a Rick James sample in it as well, just like the Nicki Minaj track. But yeah, we're going with About Damn Time. I think this is the best track on the album, to be honest, and one of her best singles so far. I saw people call this really cheesy, and I get it. It is definitely very cheesy, but it's just fun. Like, it's just a fun little tune, you know? You can't deny the little fun tune that she gave us here. I think her bringing in some of her sort of quirky, wacky personality in the second verse where she kind of starts to do that rap thing that she does every now and then is really fun as well. So many quotable lines in this song. I'm a sucker for a pop song that has so many quotable lines. And I think this one has it. It's not lyrically amazing, but it doesn't really need to be. It's got a super simple structure and the chorus is just very basic as hell, but it's so effective and has ended up landing at number 5 on my list for the whole year. So kind of goes to show how good I think the song is, despite the fact that in a lot of ways it is very simple and straight to the point, but it didn't need to be anything else. I think the little funky grooviness that's coming through as well is really welcomed. I think more pop music should be going in this direction, to be honest. And Lizzo is potentially going to be the one to take it forward and carry it, because she seems to bring it to the table every single time, and I enjoy what she does. Right, number 4 now. We are at number 4, and we've got a bit of a game changer here, because this artist had been quiet for quite a few years and came back and reinvented themselves in such a unique way that really worked for them. It really friggin' worked for them. They were already one of the biggest artists in the world, but now with this versatility, she is unstoppable.
You won't break my soul. You won't break my soul. You won't break my
Renaissance, let's not mince words, is one of the best albums of 2022 by any artist of any genre. It is just so friggin' good, and it provided the hits as you would expect it would. It is fun, banging dance jams from start to end. It does not let go at any point. It holds on to that for the whole album, and it is just a great release from top to bottom. It is so good. And Break My Soul was the lead single, and this was a really big hit for her. I think it was a great way to show people that she was coming back in a way that was totally different to what we'd seen before. Like, Beyonce doing this style of music is a risk. It is a huge risk, and the fact that she did it so well, and the fact that other albums really across her career have had so much versatility to them, really go to show how much of a powerhouse of a musician she is. I mean, even as late into her career as she is now, she's making banging dance house tracks that sound like she's at the start of her career, and she's, you know, as fresh on the surface of you know, brand new music. But she isn't. She's this late into her career, she's decided to do a total change, and it's worked, and it's crazy, and it's a great tune. You thought that was the only one, didn't you? No. She gets 2 on this list, my friends. At number 3, we have Cuff It, which is, in my opinion, one of the best tracks from the whole album, and thankfully she released it as a single too, and it did very well in the charts. Not as well as it probably should have done. I will say, both of these tracks, neither of them hit number 1 in the UK, and I'm not really sure how neither did. I don't quite understand that. They've still been successful, but as big as this album's been, there's so much accessibility to it, and you'd expect these tracks to be topping the charts for weeks on end, but yet they haven't, and I don't really quite get that. But Cuff It, to me, is so fun. I've mentioned it already in the best Beyonce songs ever video. It was pretty high up on that list. That's how good I think it is. The rhythm, the groove, the final section of the track where the instrumental kind of bursts and Beyonce's just sounding like she's having a great time across this whole thing. It is one of the most fun tracks you'll hear all year. Again, of any genre, whether it's hit the charts or not, this is truly one of the best tracks of the year for me. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And yeah, it's only at number 3, so that means we've got 2 more above it. What's it gonna be? All right, I have to state for this next one at number 2, I was quite happy that this became a hit, because I felt it, you know? I felt it. I thought it could be, and I felt it. And I said it in the review of the album that this came from, that this could be something that really takes off, because it's got that it factor to it. It's got something about it. It's got something about it. Every line, every section of the track feels like its own hook. There's so much catchy about it, the way he sings every word. The chorus feels like a hook, the verses feel like its own hook, this last ending of the section of the track feels like a hook.
thought you were too good for me, my dear. Never gave me time of
Bad Habit by Steve Lacy. I felt it, man. There was something about it, and it became one of the biggest songs of the year. And I'm so glad for him that it was, because this track, my friend, is a cheat code. It is so addictive. I don't know what it is about the song, but I play it so much. It is, in fact, at this point of recording, my most played song of the entire year. That's how much it's a cheat code. And I don't get it. I don't get how he was able to do it. I think he recorded this whole thing on like his phone or something, and yet he managed to make it sound so good. And yeah, it became a huge TikTok viral trend for quite some time, and probably for the worst for Steve Lacy, because a lot of his live shows ended up just going to shit, and I think he probably would have preferred not to have had such a successful song from it if it meant that so many of the people at his shows were going to be as disrespectful as they were. But that's by the by, that's not really part of what makes a song so good. It's just so catchy and sweet, and the melodies and his voice and the instrumental just sounds great. Everything about it just sounds so good. It sounds perfectly modern. It also has its kind of, you know, old school soul influences coming through it a little bit as well. But yeah, I just think every part of this track just feels like it hits your soul, and you just want to sing every goddamn word. Love this, man. But somehow there's one song better. And if you were paying attention right at the start of the video, you'd know that I gave you a little sneaky, hinty for what this was going to be a little bit if you think about it. Because I said the song had to be big in 2022. Did I say all the songs had to come out in 2022? I didn't. No. It could be big in 2022. Didn't have to come out in 2022. I mean, what else was it gonna be? Was it seriously never gonna be one of the best pop songs of all time? What else could you have at number one? Yes, I have consulted in serious discussions about this with people. Should it be counted? It wasn't out in 2022, but the judges and I have made the decision. It was big in 2022, so it counts. Yes, the best pop song of 2022, in my opinion, is Running Up That Hill. The event, the moment that this song captured this year was astronomical. It cannot be denied how much of a huge cultural moment this was, and it so deserves it. Like, it so deserves it. It is truly one of the best pop songs ever, by anyone ever, by one of the greatest artists of all time, and she got her flowers this year through Stranger Things. You have to give Stranger Things their props, because this would not have happened without that show. But of course, Kate Bush had to accept that it was going to happen. She is so protective of her work. She's so protective of her art. Everything she does is purposeful. Everything she writes has meaning. There is nothing that gets left untouched with Kate Bush. And it was her that made this happen just as much as it was Stranger Things. They reached out to her and she could have said no. She knew that this was the right fitting moment, this right setting for this song. And that is how we ended up here. More than however many years, is it like 40 or nearly 40 years after the release of the track, we have a huge moment for Kate Bush in this song and how massive it was. It finally reached number one. She's had hits before. She had hits in her prime. She had chart-topping tracks like Wuthering Heights. And here we are later on, years after, this song becomes massive, and it so deserves it. It is phenomenal. The vocals, the delivery, the lyrical theme, the idea of the track, what went into the thought process of this was absolutely genius. And regardless of this, whether it became big this year or if it never ever became as big as it did, it was already a well-known song. Let's not forget that part. It was a top 5 hit when it was released. Let's not forget that. It was well known, but it became super well known this year across all generations. And my point is, if this had never happened and she said no to Stranger Things, or Stranger Things never reached out to her, I wouldn't give it crap. This would still be one of the best pop songs of all time. Like, it really still would be. It is perfect. The vibe, the atmosphere, the production still sounds fantastic. The chorus, the bridge of this track is phenomenal. Everything about it. If you want to see someone passionately talk about this track, go watch Big Boy's video. That's one of my favorite videos, honestly, where he talks about this song. Big Boy, the Outkast rapper. You know Outkast. You should know Big Boy as well. Watch that video. He talks about that song so good, and it is a beautiful track, and it deserved to be one of the biggest songs of the year, and it deserves to be at the top of my list. It deserves to be the best popular hit song of 2022. I went on for ages talking about that there, and I don't regret it. So hopefully you enjoyed what I had to say, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. That is the list, the top 10 popular hit songs of 2022, in my opinion. You might have your own opinion. Was there anything I missed? Was there anything that should have been on this list that wasn't? Is there any thoughts you have generally about what I said throughout this video? Please let me know in the comments. Would love to see what you think. Have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my Patreon if you'd like to support this channel. Share the video around as well with lots of people. That would be great. Would love to see it do well. Thank you as always. Leave a comment. Tell me your thoughts. Goodbye.